The doors of the throne hall opened before I was ready for them, and the guards pushed me forward so hard I nearly fell. Chains dragged across the metal floor, too heavy for my wrists, cutting into my skin with every step. 1,000 golden eyes turned toward me at once. I was the first human ever brought into this hall, and every creature in it wanted to see what I looked like up close. I kept my head up. I had promised myself that much. Whatever happened next, I would not look afraid, even if my hands were shaking inside those chains. At the far end of the hall, on a throne made of dark metal and polished stone, sat Queen Ashrin. Her skin had the deep red shine of dried blood, and her crown looked like it had grown straight out of the ridges on her skull. She was the reason my unit had spent 6 years fighting a war that never seemed to end. She was the reason half my friends were gone. I had pictured this moment more times than I could count, locked inside a cell with nothing but time and anger to keep me company. In every version I imagined, I said something bold, something that would make her remember my face forever. Instead, one of the guards grabbed the front of my shirt and tore it open to check me for hidden weapons, and the whole hall went silent. Because there, across my chest, written in sharp black lines, was her name. Not a word that sounded like her name. Not a guess, her actual name, written in the private Thren script that only her royal family was allowed to use, a script that no human was ever supposed to see, let alone carry on their own skin. Queen Ashrin stood up so fast that her guards flinched. She crossed the hall in a few long strides and stopped right in front of me, close enough that I could see her eyes shrink to thin points as she stared at my chest. Her hand rose toward my skin, then stopped in the air, like she was afraid to touch it, and afraid to look away from it at the same time. "Where," she said, in clear, careful English, "did a human get my name?" I could have said nothing. Some part of me, the soldier part, the part that remembered burying friends on cold, empty moons because of her people, wanted to stay silent and let her wonder forever. But I was tired of secrets, tired of a war that had eaten so many years of my life that I could barely remember what peace felt like. "You don't remember," I said quietly. "Do you?" Her jaw moved, but no words came out at first. Then, sharp and low, she said, "Remember what?" 9 years ago, I said, a small transport ship went down near the edge of the Kesset fields. No military markings on it, just a damaged hull and one passenger inside. You were on that ship. Something changed behind her eyes. A flicker, a memory trying to surface. "I was a young soldier on a recovery mission," I continued. "We were told never to help enemy ships. That was the rule. But when we found your pod, you were just a child. Your side was cracked open, and you were losing air fast. Command wasn't answering our calls. And I wasn't going to leave a child alone in the dark just because some rule said I should." The whole hall had gone completely still. Even the guards who had been holding my arms seemed to lean forward without meaning to. "I sealed the crack in your pod myself," I said. "I stayed with you for almost 2 full days until a ship from your side finally answered our signal. You didn't speak my language, I didn't speak yours. But right before they took you away, you grabbed my hand and burned something into my skin. I thought it was some kind of warning. It hurt more than anything I had felt before. It took me almost 2 years, and a lot of quiet searching, to learn what it actually meant." I looked down at my own chest, at the marks that had been part of me for nearly a decade. "It was your name," I said. "I was told, through people who were not supposed to help me, that if I ever needed to remind a queen of a promise, I should carry her name somewhere she could never pretend not to see it." Queen Ashrin's hand was trembling now, a real, visible shake running through her whole body. "You," she whispered. "The transport. I was told a patrol from my own people found me drifting. I was told humans left injured travelers behind whenever they had the chance. That is the story I grew up believing. That is the story I was crowned under." "That's strange," I said, "because that same story got me punished by my own side for helping you. They called it a mistake. They said I broke the rules for nothing." For a long moment, the most powerful ruler in this part of the galaxy stood frozen, staring at the mark she had carved into my skin with her own hand back when she was a frightened child nobody expected to survive. Then she turned away from me and faced her court. Rows of generals, advisors, and officials who had spent years building their power on a war that had taken so much from both our worlds. "Release him," she said. "Bring a healer, and bring me the old records from the Kesset region." One of her ministers stepped forward, clearly ready to argue. She did not even glance at him. "Now," she said, and her voice left no room for questions. Within moments my chains were gone. My wrists were raw and aching where the metal had pressed too hard, and my chest still stung from where the guards had torn my shirt open. But I stood there, free, in front of a throne that had once seemed like the last place I would ever see. For the first time in years, something that felt almost like hope began to grow inside me, right next to the old mark on my skin. A healer arrived quickly, wrapping careful bandages around my wrists, while I watched the Queen speak in low, fast tones with her advisors. I couldn't understand every word, but I understood the tension in the room. Old beliefs were being questioned in front of everyone, and no one seemed comfortable with that. After a while, Ashrin returned to me. This time, she did not stand over me like a ruler facing a captive. She stood beside me, almost like an equal. "My people were told the humans destroyed that transport," she said, "that the wreck was found empty, with no survivors. I never questioned it, because why would anyone lie about something so simple?" "Someone had a reason," I said. "War makes it easy to believe the worst about the other side. It's much harder to explain why one soldier chose kindness instead of following an order." She studied my face for a long moment, the way someone studies a puzzle they thought they had already solved. "What happened to you?" she asked. "After you helped me, you said you were punished." "I was removed from my unit," I said. "They said I put my crew at risk by staying near an enemy ship for 2 days, instead of leaving the area. They said I could have gotten everyone killed for a stranger, who wasn't even from our side. But you did it anyway." "I couldn't leave a child to die," I said simply. "It didn't matter to me which side you were from." Ashrin's expression softened in a way I hadn't expected from someone with such a fierce reputation. "My advisors built an entire policy around the belief that humans have no mercy," she said. "They used that story to justify attacks I did not always agree with, but I trusted the reports. I trusted people I now realize may have been protecting their own plans, not the truth." "So what happens now?" I asked. She looked at the mark on my chest one more time, then met my eyes directly. "Now, I think it's time the truth was heard by more than just the two of us." She called for her court to gather again, and this time, instead of standing above them on her throne, she stood on the same level as her people, with me beside her. She told them the real story of the transport crash. She told them about the human soldier who broke his own orders to save a stranger's life, and the mark he had carried in silence for 9 years, waiting for a moment that finally arrived today. The hall was filled with quiet murmurs, some full of doubt, some full of something that looked almost like shame. Old beliefs do not disappear in a single moment, but I could see something shifting in the room, slow and uncertain, like ice beginning to crack under warm light. Before I left the hall that day, Ashrin placed her hand gently over the mark on my chest, the same way she had once done as a frightened child holding on to the only kindness she had known in that moment. "You kept a promise to a stranger," she said, "when everyone around you told you not to. I think it is time my people learned what that kind of promise is truly worth." Behind her, an empire built on years of fear and mistrust stood silently, waiting to see if their queen truly meant to change the story they had believed for so long. I had a feeling she did, and for the first time since the war began, I believed that maybe, just maybe, the story between our two worlds was not finished being written.